looking around, trying to find out what's going on. I think there was some issues behind closed doors, and I think there was a lot of stress because I think they thought things were going to be easier than they were. And welcome to bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is not easy. It is big, it is cumbersome, it is ugly, and it has positioned itself in certain ways where even the moves you're making today aren't going to be felt for quite a while, because you have to go through a process anymore that includes tons of lawsuits and whatnot.
A couple days ago in the Oval Office, Trump was asked very specifically about Musk's status as a special government employee, that 130-day limit. And Trump did indicate on Monday that Musk would be taking a step back in some way. Trump said he thinks that Musk is amazing. And he said, quote, "But I also think he's got a big company to run. And so at some point, he's going to be going back. He wants to."
And I'm sure he does, because I'm sure he's frustrated. He's running around, and he helped get Trump elected. He's still trying to put people on Mars. He is still running Tesla, and that has taken a hit. And you know what? You're hearing it from the board members. You're hearing it from the investors that, hey, man, we're taking a hit here. And it was already overpriced, but still, it's take the pricing out of it. The name is being sullied in some ways. And the Chinese, by the way, have a couple EV cars that are incredible. When you see the cost, when you see the things that they're able to do, they're pretty damn amazing. So, don't let them come over here. Although, the Democrats may be like, it's perfect because we can destroy Tesla. Let China have more. And that was a big market for him. I mean, they don't care over there. I mean, that Tesla's part of, that he's part of DOGE, but he's got a lot that he wants to get done. It's SpaceX, Starlink, all of those things. But yeah, there's got to be frustration. There is. There has to be frustration across the board. I think, Trump thought he was going to go cut trends. I said from the beginning, at some point in time, there's a sell-by date. They were going to have a clash. It wasn't going to be super public or anything. And then was like they were going to go away hating each other. But I think the frustration of giant government bureaucracy and how they're able to work around laws to entrench themselves and to essentially get locked into areas where getting rid of some of the stuff is virtually impossible. And then you've got whole agencies that are, that's Congress's thing. So I go back to Congress. What have they done? Nothing. You've got Congress. You've got it all. Hell, this week they couldn't even get past the should a lady, that just had a baby stay home for 6 weeks or 8 weeks and be allowed to vote from there. You can't even get past that. We're like, we're done for the week. These two chicks screwed it up. You screwed it up, chicks. Luna's pretty soft on the eyes. I was going to say that. I don't know what she said. Sounds good to me. And, it's funny. It's like everybody's already attacking her. It's like she's one of the most conservative people you will find. And everybody's like, what do you think about it? I think that the fact that you guys are fighting over this, why'd you put this in this bill? Why'd you try to do this? Why can't you just get some of this stuff done when you're supposed to? People are frustrated. You guys are frustrated. It's like the tariffs today. They're still negotiating it. What are you negotiating? I thought it was just 20% across the board. Well, you're probably negotiating with some countries, and everybody's like, look what Israel did. Israel, by the way, loves the fact that we supply them with a lot of goodies that we don't give other people. And by the way, they get pissed at us that we don't give them the stuff that we have. They don't just want our stuff that's like, hey, we're going to give you this, but it's going to be instead, we've got this version, you get the I version. They're like, no. We don't want the iPhone 16. You guys have 17. We want that. So, and on top of that, we're doing a lot for them, throwing these students out here, which apparently is coming out that there was maybe a list of names provided that were some agitators at schools that they would like them to get rid of, which, believe it or not, the ADL and Israel and this administration are very close. When nobody wants anti-Semitism on campus, I think we all agree with that. But Israel's a different case. It's going to be interesting, though. It's the appetite. I was telling everybody, what's the appetite when it comes to these tariffs? because the appetite as far as like, all right, how long's the short-term pain? Or are we talking 6 weeks? Are we talking 6 months? Are we talking the entire time of this? Because politics will always get in the way of the right thing because very few politicians will sacrifice themselves for the greater good of mankind.
Donald Trump is not a guy who's usually all about delayed gratification. He wants the payoff now. And so this is a little out of character and an admission on his part to say this is going to hurt. The question is, what's Donald Trump's political pain tolerance for this? Maybe it's a little higher than it was in his first term, but I don't know if it's as high as he wants everyone to think it is.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people out there who think, look, this is just sort of
so
the
political pain versus economic
pain. This is the show, and this is the sort of start of a negotiation.
Well, he says that.
It's always starting negotiation. And if I am, the other side of it is if I'm a country right now that's already in a bit of it, and to just give you guys a glance, as bad as, as we looked at Biden and that whole situation was, which was a nightmare, our economy was so much better than the economies around the globe. Our economy was, look at our market. Look at our stock market. Look how insane our stock market is. We are so overvalued in a lot of ways in many of our stocks. But you go and look at other countries. I was reading a thing today. With China, since 2009, their stock market's up, I think, 3%. Yet, look how their life has changed in certain areas. You can go look at other parts of the globe where there's no money in it. Nobody's putting it. We have a vast majority of the globe's wealth in our stock market. That's why Trump looks at the stock market. It's a big deal to him. Well, especially with your 401ks and all those kind of stuff. But if I know that you're only in it to negotiate with me and you're taking on everybody. See, you're not just taking on a singular person. You're taking on the whole group. So you've opened up a front for everybody. If I know that, do you try to sit and wait them out, especially if stuff's already kind of crappy in your country? And see if you can turn the tide. Now, we're just too strong and powerful in a lot of places, but the thought of will it get too loud? If the job market slows down, if the stock market stagnates or takes a little bit more of a hit, if those are the things that you have to think about. And then on the other side of we're going to bring in manufacturing. Are we really going to bring in manufacturing? Do you really think that, Bell? Do you really think, kids are just dreaming of working at a car plant?
I think that a lot of this stuff is based on feeling instead of the facts of the situation. And if you really want the country to be as economically independent as possible, we have a long way to go.
Yeah. And it's about consuming. And that's what I talked about last hour. And several of you have chimed in about like the consumption. Well, buying American's great. 20 years ago, even 15 years ago, 10 years ago, a lot of that stuff was crap that many of these countries produce, but now it's not the same. It's not just crap. And a lot of that stuff that has American names on it is produced elsewhere. Somebody said, where can you find $2 socks? I was just looking on Amazon. Hanes, $1.88. So it's $12 for like a 7 or 8 pack. It's $1.88 for socks. It's Hanes. Same thing with Dickies. Those are American names.
Brand names.
Do you think they're produced and made right here? Probably not. And it doesn't mean they're made in China either. They could be made in India. They may be made in Bangladesh. Guatemala. And you start to learn. Everybody who's ever bought a shirt, you're like, okay, where's this thing made? Okay, I need a 5X because that should fit, And then other ones, you're like, I need a small because you're never quite sure how they're going to produce it. But the consumption, our appetite for cheap crap is huge. What's the last cheap thing you bought that you're like, man, I can't believe I got it for this price?
I guess my 50-inch TV because I got it for like $274 or $279.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you remember what was it?
And it's a smart TV on top of it.
Yeah. You go back to like even 2000 is those big box TVs. Like, oh, dude, you got a widescreen giant TV, and Nowadays, it is like $1,990. Go look at how expensive like CD players when they first came.
Oh, it was. I mean, even CDs. CDs were $20 a pop.
I know. It's crazy. But like, was it that Wedding Singer with Adam Sandler? Mm-hmm. You remember it's like, hey, I bought you a CD player. It only cost me $1,100. You're like, oh my God. That thing would cost a nickel now.
The rich always kind of are the ones who get to be the test subjects, so to speak. They pay out the wazoo for the first.
Because they want the first.
Yeah, they want to be, they want to be, right there at the forefront of things. So they pay the most. A good example of what I'm doing a very poor job of explaining is like the Jaguar video game console that came out in the early 90s. $1,000 in the early 90s for a video game console. That the price tag alone killed it. But all the people that bought it were rich people that could afford that easily. And after the thing failed, they were the ones stuck with it, not the average middle American.
You're right about. I watched this guy who, it was like on TikTok, or it was one of those things where it was like 1999. He was inviting all his buddies down to the basement to watch the Super Bowl, and he had one of those giant, huge box TVs, and everybody was so excited. It's like, it cost $3,500 or $5,000.
I remember walking through Best Buy and seeing, I guess at the time they were 4Ks, or maybe it was HDs, but there were $8,000 televisions in there, like for a 40-inch. And the only people that were buying those were rich people.
Crazy.
And now you and I can walk into a Walmart and get a much bigger TV that's a smart TV that does a lot more and only pay a few $100s for it.
My uncle's at CES, that's the Consumer Electronics Show, and he says like they've got these now they're 100-inch roll, like they're almost like a wallpaper. And it's television, and you roll it out, and it's perfect. And he goes, right now they're like, $10,000, but they're massive. He goes, and the guy's like, yeah, within a couple of years, they'll be like $1,500.
You'll be walking in there. It'll even be less than that after a while.
Because once the Chinese get a hold of it, because I think it's manufactured in Japan now, but it's going to be cheap. And a lot of people are like, well, these cars and these things that Chinese and the Indian stuff make, it's not the same anymore. It's not the cheap crap that it used to be. It's not because so much of it is manufactured at times literally in the same building. I mean, I've seen that with like Birkin bags and stuff. They're in places where you're buying a bag that looks like a Birkin. They're also cutting the same leather they're going to use it and manufacturing it over here just across the street. It's virtually the same. The difference is one says Birkin on it. Ooh. I asked everybody, what's your last thing that you bought that was super expensive? And so Rick said, I spent $1,500 for a head unit and 10 disc CD changer.
In 1989. And that was probably a decent price in 1989.
Oh, man. I remember one time I saved up a bunch of money and got myself one of those stereos that you could pull out because I didn't want to get stolen. My car was worth like $1.
Face off of it?
Yeah. My car was worth like $1.50. It was like it was a VW Rabbit that I couldn't close the sunroof anymore. But I had like a $400 stereo in it. Like that $400 stereo would be a nickel now at the swap meet.
They'd take the stereo, leave the car.
That's exactly it. We don't want this stupid car. It's stupid. It's horrible. Oh, my goodness.
You could even go back to VHS players.
Oh.
And remember Betamax?
Oh, of course.
And the Betamax, which everybody agreed was superior in quality, but it cost so much that the VHS players, won out.
When I was a kid, nobody had VHS players. You had to go rent it.
Oh, yeah, that too.
That was the other thing. It's like, Mom, we got to get to the store before they're all gone. And it's like now if you have a VHS player, it's like I wouldn't even know what to do with it.
I remember us having weekends where we would rent a VHS player and get some movies and have kind of like movie weekend.
Yeah.
But after a while it gets to the point where that $1,800 VHS player gets down to about $199, and you don't think twice about spending $199 versus $1,800.
Yeah, and they also got smaller, too, because I remember when you first ran out, they weighed 700 pounds.
Oh, they were boat anchors, man. You could have thrown one over the side of an aircraft carrier and it wouldn't have moved.
It's like, don't set it on the TV, it's going to break it. And remember, guys, rewind.
Yes, be kind, rewind.
Absolutely. Coming up, more of this good, fun stuff. We're talking all kinds of stuff today. I want to talk a little bit more of Val Kilmer, passed away. Some of you chiming in on the best movies that he ever did. He passed away yesterday. He's only 65 years old. Died of pneumonia, but he had battled for a long time a lot of stuff, especially cancer. We got some other stuff coming up as well. Eric Adams, more on Elon Musk. Not out, but kind of out, taking a step back from DOGE. Somebody said he got doged, which is kind of funny. It's Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7.